Welcome to the Oddcast. Today, we're setting sail to the wild North Atlantic, a place where the wind's got a voice, the waves have stories to tell, and the past just won't be quiet. We're headed to Scotland's Outer Hebrides, to a rocky bunch of islands wrapped in myths and storms. This is where the Flannan Isles Lighthouse keeper's mystery unfolds. 3 men who vanished into the thin air, leaving one of the spookiest maritime puzzles ever. About 20 miles west of the Isle of Lewis sit the Flannan Isles. They're remote and tough, with a Gaelic name hinting at their ancient vibe. Nowadays, only seabirds and monk ghosts hang around. But back in 1900, Eilean Moor, the biggest island, housed the Flannan Isles Lighthouse. Built in 1899, this 75-foot stone tower stood tall, warning ships of the jagged rocks below. 4 keepers worked in shifts, 3 on the island for 6 weeks, and 1 on the mainland ready to swap in. This was to handle the job's isolation and mental strain. But in winter 1900, something strange happened, something no one saw coming. On December 26, 1900, the lighthouse supply ship Hesperus headed to Eilean Moor to bring in relief keeper Joseph Moore. There was supposed to be 3 men on duty: principal keeper James Ducat, second assistant Thomas Marshall, and occasional keeper Donald MacArthur, a tough ex-soldier. As the Hesperus approached, Captain James Harvey felt uneasy. The sea was calm and the sky was clear, perfect conditions. But something was off. No flag was flying, nobody was at the landing to greet them, and the lighthouse light, visible for miles, had been dark for days. After trying to signal with no answer, Captain Harvey sent Moore ashore. Moore's anxiety grew as he climbed the steep steps to the lighthouse, calling out for the men, but only hearing the wind and gulls. Inside, things were eerie. It was like the keepers had just vanished. Beds were unmade, a clock had stopped, and a meal of salted mutton and pickles sat uneaten. An overturned chair hinted at sudden panic. Oddly, 1 set of oilskins, essential gear for the harsh weather, was still hanging up. This suggested someone left in a rush without proper protection. But all 3 men were missing. Outside, the scene showed nature's fury. Iron railings were twisted, a supply box was smashed, and turf 200 feet above sea level was ripped away. The sea had reached unimaginable heights. The lighthouse logbook added to the mystery. The last entry was from December 15th, describing a storm starting on December 12th. Thomas Marshall wrote about fierce winds, noting Ducat was quiet and MacArthur was crying. The detail of MacArthur, a soldier, crying became legendary. The log's final entry on the 15th read, "Storm ended, sea calm. God is over all." But there was a catch. No storm was reported nearby on those dates, and the dramatic entries were likely later embellishments. The official logbook listed routine tasks and weather, with the last entry stating the light was working fine. The official investigation, led by Robert Muirhead, concluded the men were likely swept away by a rogue wave. His theory, the most plausible, suggests Ducat and Marshall went to secure the landing during a storm lull and were caught by a massive wave. MacArthur, seeing this, might have rushed out to help, leaving his oilskins behind, only to meet the same fate. Despite this logical explanation, the scene's oddities, The uneaten meal, stopped clock, and no bodies left room for speculation. Could the isolation have driven someone mad? One theory suggests MacArthur snapped, killed the others, and jumped into the sea. The overturned chair is sometimes seen as evidence of a struggle, but without bodies or a weapon, it's just a theory. Supernatural tales abound. The Flannan Isles, steeped in folklore, were thought to house spirits. Some say the keepers were lured by a ghostly ship or sea monster. Wilfred Wilson Gibson's 1912 poem, Flannan Isle, added to this eerie version with its haunting imagery. Fringe theories. There's talk of spies or aliens, but those are more fiction than a fact. Today, the Flannan Isles Lighthouse is automated, its light now solar-powered. It stands alone, a monument to an era gone by. The winds still howl, the sea still crashes, and the mystery of December 1900 lingers. While the rogue wave theory makes the most sense, the story's power is in its unanswered questions. The sudden disappearance of 3 seasoned men, leaving just a few eerie clues, opened a door for fear, folklore, and wild guesses. What did James Ducat, Thomas Marshall, and Donald MacArthur face in their final moments on that isolated rock? We might never know. Their story, lost to the sea, endures, a part of maritime legend, and maybe, just maybe, they're still watching from somewhere beyond the mist. Thanks for tuning in. Until next time, stay curious and keep an eye on the horizon.